Hey, Matt here with the Exercise Blueprint. Tonight we're going to talk about frequency and the role that frequency plays in your hypertrophy training. So when we're talking frequency, we're just talking how often are you training each muscle group per week. Last time we talked about volume and how many total sets you want to get in per week, 10 to 20 sets. Today we're going to talk about how often you should train each muscle group. So the split that I grew up with when I was 12, I'm 44 now, so we're talking back in 1992, 1993, was what's become known as the bro split, training each muscle group just one time per week. Like chest on Monday, legs on Tuesday, back on Wednesday, and so forth. So you train your chest on Monday, you're not gonna hit it again until the following Monday. That's a split that, so I guess we should start with, that's a split that is still very commonly used by a lot of high level athletes. So when you're talking high level, very competitive amateurs, and a lot of the professional bodybuilders still train with that split. I'm going to tell you what some other ideas are. We've got some pretty compelling science and just anecdotal data around training your muscle groups more than once per week, why I train my muscle groups more than once per week, and how that fits into my lifestyle and why I like it better than the way that I used to train. First thing is, when you train a muscle, you are stimulating muscle protein synthesis. So you train, you work out, and you're sending a signal to your muscles that they need to grow so that they can handle that work demand the next time that demand comes up. Muscle protein synthesis peaks somewhere around 24 to 36 hours afterward. So that's kind of what you get. So if you train your chest on, say, Monday, let's say Monday night, that muscle protein synthesis in that muscle is going to peak sometime around Tuesday night, and then in through Wednesday morning, maybe Wednesday afternoon. After that, muscle protein synthesis is now shut off in that muscle group, essentially. You train your back, and then muscle protein synthesis is gonna kick on for that. So if you're training your muscle groups only one time per week, and so let's say we're hitting our volume targets, let's say we're hitting 12 sets. So you do 12 sets of chest on Monday, your body's going to get the most growth that it can out of that work over the next about 36 hours. So that's Wednesday morning, let's say. You're not gonna train your chest again until the following Monday. So that's a lot of time where your chest isn't being stimulated to grow. Muscle protein synthesis isn't happening in that muscle group locally that you're trying to grow. So imagine if you could instead stimulate muscle protein synthesis on a Monday and then stimulate it again on Thursday. And then, you get some growth, you train Thursday night, peaks Friday night into Saturday morning, and then Sunday off, and then you hit it again on Monday. We can be, especially as natural lifters, stimulating muscle protein synthesis and getting growth more often by training each muscle group more often. Professional bodybuilders have got a couple other things going for them, or even high level amateurs or people that want to be on that professional stage. Number one, their genetics. I can't compare myself to those guys genetically. The amount of damage that they can do to their muscles, the poundage that they can handle, and their body's response to that and how well it can grow are much different than mine. The other is the gear, the anabolics that they're also taking in order to be at that high level. So yes, genetics plays a huge role in that, but so do the anabolics. And when you're taking the anabolics, you're getting muscle protein synthesis all the time. So you're not counting on the training stimulus to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. You're counting on it to send the signal, we got to grow, we're going to cause some damage, and we're going to grow, but you're not banking on that 24 to 36 hour window when you're going to get that growth signal. You're growing kind of all the time. So as natural lifters, we need to be looking at this a little bit differently. The next part is think about your own training. Let's say you've got a leg day and you're gonna shoot for, let's say 12 sets of legs on that day. You wanna get 12 sets of quads in. Let's just focus on quads. So, all right, so let's say you do 4 sets of squats, okay? You're good, you're going. Then you're gonna go into 4 sets of leg press. All right, so now we've got 8 sets of quads in, and then you're gonna go to maybe 4 sets of quad extensions. Be honest, how good are those quad extensions really going to look by the time you get to the end of that workout? neurologically, mentally, you're going to be getting much more fatigued by the time you get to the end of that. Your own neurological system isn't going to be able to recruit as many muscle fibers as it could when you were doing your squats. It's at the beginning of the workout. So if we could instead take those 12 sets and cut it into 2 different workouts of 6 sets, we know that volume is a major driver of hypertrophy. And the research really kind of tells us that you're hitting those overall volume targets throughout the week is the most important part. It doesn't matter if you hit that in 1 workout, 2 workouts, 3 workouts. So we don't have to get all 12 of those sets and fully exhaust our quads on just that one day. We could break that into 2 workouts of 6. So now think maybe you do 3 sets of squats followed by 3 sets of leg press. You're still going to be able to put a good amount of effort. You're still going to be very highly motivated. Your neurological system is still going to be able to recruit a high number of those muscle fibers. You're going to get more out of that work. Then you come back on Thursday, and now maybe you hit some hack squats, 3 sets of hack squats, 3 sets of quad extensions. You're going to get a lot more out of each of those sets because they're going to be much fresher than if you're trying to hit them at the end of a long, grueling leg session. Another thing that I really love about it, I spent, so let's say 18. I started training when I was 12, but I was also involved in a lot of athletics. So I was kind of training all of the time. But from the time that I was 18 and I wasn't doing sports anymore, I was heavily focused on lifting weights. I did that from, let's say, 18 until 32 when I started CrossFit, and things changed up quite a bit. I would spend my weeks from the time that I did a leg workout, my quality of life was rather diminished for the rest of that week, simply because my legs were so unbelievably sore from the amount of work that I was putting on them. That's those days where, you go in and you got to like hold yourself to sit down on the toilet, right? You're just wiped out. You kind of fall into the couch instead of sitting down on the couch. Just legs absolutely wiped out. And if you train hard, you're taking your sets close to failure. You're hitting your volume targets. You're hitting 10 sets, 15 sets, 20 sets of legs. 1 time a week, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Since switching over to training more frequently, hitting my legs 2 times a week, I still get sore. I still notice that though the muscle groups locally, they're tired. Like if I go to run up a set of stairs, I don't have the push and that drive and that explosion, and I don't want to train, but I'm not struggling either. I can still go and I can play with my kids. I'm not struggling to sit down. Like I can feel it. I can feel the soreness, but it's a good soreness. I know that I did work, and I know that I'm going to come back and I'm going to hit them again on Thursday. So I feel like my quality of life training this way is much higher in the interim, and I'm getting more out of my sets. And I'm hitting my volume targets. And I can typically, as I go from mesocycle to mesocycle, I can get in more work each week than I could when I was training each muscle group only 1 time a week. Realistically, I can't handle 18, 20 sets of a muscle group in 1 workout. It's just way too much. I mean, by the time I get halfway through that, I've completely lost my pump. Mentally, I'm checking out. I don't have any real strength left to push those muscle groups. So when I'm training 1 time a week, I'm not getting into the 12 sets, 15 sets. I'm not getting into some of those higher numbers. Whereas when I'm training each muscle group only 2 times a week, I'm able to do more volume as I auto-regulate and build my body up to where it can handle more and more and more. So if you're following me, if you're training. If you're a natural trainer, if your goal is to gain muscle, and you're still following the bro split, I urge you to try and make a shift. This was in a lot of ways, this was a hard shift for me to make, because when I went back into training just for muscle growth, I wanted to default back to what I knew and what I was comfortable with. And even though some of the science was out there saying, yes, volume is the primary, but you can break that up however you want. So knowing that it could work It took me a while to be willing to give it a shot and then to give it a real legitimate chance. As we go on in another video kind of throughout the series with how to build your own program, we'll talk about a lot of different ways that you could structure this work and how you could set up your frequency, and we'll work that in with your volume targets, and I'll show you and teach you how to do that. But give it a shot. A great way to start is just with an upper lower program. Figure out how much volume you want to take, divide it out from there. But give it a month or two and see if you notice what I'm talking about. See if you notice that all of your sets tend to be better than when you were trying to pump all that volume into one workout. Give that an honest shot. Give it a month or two. See how it works for you. Have a good workout.